Yeah, one time for the city. Yeah, same aura as before. The smoke got blowing orange laws, meaning you pursue at your own cause. Last of a breed.
All right, we got the gears grinding. We got the red lights flashing, man. We're good to go. We got my guy Dave early on the other side. All right, man, we're already locked in to get this thing going. What up, Knicks Nation? We are back with another game of the week preview. We're here to preview the New York Knicks going against the 76ers for the third time out of 4 season series matchups. And with me on the other side is my guy Dave Early. He covers the 76ers for Liberty Ballers, so make sure to go check him out, man. Make sure to go give him a follow. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Stay locked in because, look, the Knicks, they blew out the Nets, man, last night. So now we got to make sure that we get on this nice win streak and show that we are actually moving in the right direction. So make sure to stay locked in, man. It's going to be a good one. Dave, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you? You feel like the slump's over?
I'm sorry?
You feel like the slump's over?
Look, man, I'm living day by day. Got to live in the moment, man. I'm not going to say it's over. I'm not going to say we're on the verge of a winning streak. Take it one day at a time. There's a lot of losing for the New York Knicks throughout the month of January. But hey, we'll take the small wins right now. But we got a bigger challenge up ahead this weekend because, look, the 76ers have been taking us to task. And we gotta make sure that we take them down at least once, man, or tie the season series. But how are you doing today?
I'm very good. Looking forward to this game. The night we're recording this, Embiid posted a 30-point triple-double. So my buddy texted me, I think he's getting close towards 60-something% here. So I don't know, what that means. Like sometimes he looks like he's good out there, but then he has to miss the next couple of games. And it's very, very hard to rely on him and say we're banking him into that lineup and we're banking the type of play we can come to expect from him. The whole season banks on both him and Paul George, who a lot of teams around the league this trade deadline might see as albatross contracts still and not want to be picking up that phone. So it's tough when, it's not your best player who is making that much money and he's not always out there. Right now, Tyrese Maxey is the cornerstone.
Yeah, but before we get too much into the Sixers, man, we got to start with the Knicks, man. This is a Knicks-centric social. We got to get into the nitty-gritty of how the New York Knicks are doing. So as
Put it on my shoulders. Put it on my shoulders.
There you go. So look, I already let off. The Knicks did a lot of losing this month. Got to get your thoughts and opinion, man. What do you think about the New York Knicks on the season so far up until this point?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you could look at it. I mean, I've been following. I keep tabs, so I've seen. Is it Mike Brown? Is it the cup hangover? Is it all on Cat? Is it something else? I have one friend who said it was the Julian Champagny 3-point shooting spree around New Year's. Like when something like that happens to you. So yeah, it could be a lot of things. It could be a little of everything. But I'm scooping up Knicks stock right now. I think there's a lot of people who are overly worried. If you peek at the lines over at your favorite betting website, they have made minor adjustments. They've got now Detroit as a favorite to win the East, but only marginally over the Knicks. And so I'm saying maybe it is that cup hangover. Maybe it a little bit is what we knew last year, that if you've got a team centered around Brunson and Towns, defense is probably not going to be your strong suit, right? You and I talked about it last season as well, and there were going to be problems there. But give me your stock if you're really worried about it. If you're trying to make a big seismic shakeup at the trade deadline, I'll say, hey, look, I'm not terribly worried about the Eastern landscape right now. I like the Knicks' chances to win the East still, and I think they will get through this.
There are legitimate concerns about this team. Look, defensively, there are some serious concerns. It has not improved since last season. And when you have somebody like Brunson and Cat as like your two focal points of what they can do offensively, but yet they're defensive sieves on the other end, it's tough to go out there consistently and just go win games, man, especially when you got your point of attack and your rim protector being your weakest defender. So, look, it puts a lot of onus on guys like Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, for them to cover a lot of the mistakes. Same thing with Mitchell Robinson and Deuce McBride. And so I think it leads to the fact that these guys over an 82 game regular season are not going to be locked in on a night to night basis to play 110% defense. And so if those guys aren't trying, it's going to look a lot worse than it probably is. I can also say that watching this team throughout the month of January, there are still legitimate concerns on these guys buying into Mike Brown's system, based on what we saw throughout January and whether or not they're going to, acquiesce and actually be fully invested in what he's trying to preach, man. Because it's a lot of off-ball movement, a lot of sharing the rock, a lot of multiple initiators. We saw some variations of that throughout November and December up until when they won the cup, and it was working very well. Looks like he changed some things, and it's not really been flowing for this Knicks team, and there's been some resistance. So hopefully things, change within the locker room amongst the coach, and that way these guys can actually, coexist, and these guys can actually perform what we saw earlier in the season. But is it doom and gloom for like the rest of the season? No, I think this team will still make the playoffs. I think they still got too much talent where they can't make the playoffs. How far they will go, obviously that's going to be the test, man. And we're going to see if Mike Brown's capable of doing that. But it's tough, man. It's disappointing to see for a team of their caliber and with their expectations lose in the manners that they have, especially to the top end talent of the league. But it's still not too early, but there's still too much season left to write it off. You know what I mean? So I can't really say anything until everything's done until the end of the season.
I'm a little bit surprised. It sounds like the slump has gotten to you. Do you feel like a championship team just wouldn't go 2-9, just wouldn't lose that many games in a row? Or because sometimes when I talk to fans, they say these guys know you can kick it into fifth gear and it's the regular season. And what we really need to be ready for is, and you have the chemistry, you have the core, as long as they're healthy, they're going to be a formidable force. But listening to you talk, I'm thinking like, it really does feel as if there are some mechanical, systematic issues that might not be there, or at least kinks to work out in terms of a new system. Remember back when Mike Brown took over for Steve Kerr, who had the back issue in Golden State, and he implemented more pick and roll, and it was a seamless transition. They rattled off game after game in a row, and it was nothing. Obviously, granted, that was Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. But this is a little different. You do still have those two cornerstones offensively, like you said, and so it doesn't quite add up why things don't look so good on both ends of the court. Maybe it's a turning point, that Nets game. My friend was worried that Nick Claxton was going to have 100 dunks on them.
Okay. Yeah, your friend's going a little too far off the edge, in my opinion, with Nick Claxton getting 100 dunks. But look, the thing is that it's not. Look, looking at this team, it just looks like they weren't connected. And through one game against a very inferior opponent, it's hard to make a full-on read. Like, it's the Nets, man. Like, well, they should beat them. They should go out there. They should go dominate against these, lesser teams. Does this team look together, which they haven't looked throughout the course of January? It's one thing if you're going through the motions, you guys are bought in, and it's just like you guys are playing half the speed. But it's a whole other thing where you're not even playing half the speed. Doesn't look like you guys are bought in. It looks like you guys don't even want to be around each other. You know what I mean? And then you get like Mike Brown, the whole cat, like the post game pressers, where it just seems like it's a lot of like passive aggressiveness at times, and so there's a lot of that going on, and it's just everything. They need to just hash things out and as a team and keep it moving forward. So that's my evaluation on the season. But like even with all of that still occurring, would you still put this team in that championship stratosphere right now?
If I were forecasting, I would have the Knicks coming out of the East right now. I would not have them winning it. I think whoever comes out of the West would be favored over them. But if we got to that point and they are able to knock off a Detroit, we're going to be viewing them much differently, right? If they're making their first championship round since 1999, everything's going to be and feel different. New York's going to be buzzing. It's going to be lit just like it was when Sprewell and Marcus Camby were running the show. So yeah, I guess I'm looking at it like this is a blip, and we're gonna look back on it as a blip. I could be wrong. I'm willing to eat my words, eat a lot of crow, but I think when I hear people say, I wish that we had the toughness that Randall had, I wish that we had DDV because he's playing better than Mikal now. I don't look at it like that because I've seen the playoffs the last couple of years, and I think Mikal shows up in those big moments, even though we worry about him around this time of the year each season.
Yeah, look, I think Mikal is like a whole. That's a whole. Look, man, there's a lot to dissect amongst this team, amongst many players, man. But this is a game preview, not meant to be a doom and gloom show. We're gonna keep it pushing, though. We're gonna keep it pushing. Like I said, got to take it day by day. Like after yesterday's win, I think it's a step in the right direction. I'm not gonna go overboard on the win against the Nets. Let's see how they do against Philly. And then if they continue to build off of what they did against Brooklyn, they win against Philly, and they continue to move forward, then we can start getting back on that hype train and really looking to seeing what this team fully is at max capacity. Salute to Knicks Nation. Thank you all for tuning in for another Game of the Week preview. Hit that thumbs up button for your boy. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. With me on the other side is my guy Dave Early. He covers the 76 for Liberty Ballers. Make sure to go give him a follow and check him out. All right, Dave. Let's get into your Sixers, man, because, Sixer came out of the gates hot. No, they're going through their own little bit of a disarray right now. They're up and down. Give me your status on the Sixers right now.
They fall pretty cleanly into an average team by the numbers. I mean, if you look at their offensive rating, defensive rating, you break it all down, point differential, they are expected to have per basketball reference around 22 wins. They have 23. So they've exceeded expectation, even though Sixers fans will point towards the games where they had it locked up in the bag and they wind up going to overtime and losing. We as fans, as a fan base, came into the season with very, very low expectations. We didn't know if Joel Embiid was going to play at all. We didn't know if he was going to have to retire. We didn't know what he was going to do to, be a part of the team at all, because sometimes he gave those interviews and he would sound like a guy who might have come to terms that he's not going to be able to do it. Well, we don't know what the situation is with the cartilage in the knee. Did he push too hard in that Knicks series, in the Olympics, and the surgeries? Paul George, it was hard to figure out. He was having injections, but he's still playing, even though the team should be tanking for the pick that wound up being VJ Edgecombe. And now here they are, like you said, Edgecombe looks like a budding star. He and Maxey have their name in one of the best backcourts in the NBA. And I can ask you if you think they should be up there with the Donovans and Garlands, with the Doncic and Reeves and that cluster, or, Brunson and Mikal, if you count Mikal as a two. They look really good. Those two guys have Sixers fans very, very passionate and feeling excited about the future, even though the big question mark in terms of winning the championship in this window is the health of Joel and Paul George, as it always is in Philadelphia. If Joel, and we mentioned he had that 30-point triple-double, can find some consistent health and string together one healthy playoff run, you could see them knocking off almost any team in the East right now, because there's not that juggernaut waiting for them like Denver a couple of years ago or OKC as of now. So it does look like there's an opportunity here, and that's part of why I don't feel any doom and gloom for the Knicks despite their woes.
Interesting. And to answer your question about the backcourt, they are definitely probably the most explosive and most dynamic backcourt. Still very early, but they have the runway right now. They have the potential to be one of the best backcourts in the NBA. I mean, the athleticism and the speed alone and the physicality is just insane watching them. I mean, from a Knicks perspective, the last two times they played, it's a tough 1-2 punch to just counter at this point. And when you throw in Grimes, if McCain can get back into some sort of flow, then you really got some true, power right there. But I think the whole thing, as you mentioned, that the whole Sixers experiment relies on is Embiid and Paul George. Now, at the beginning of the season, I'm one to say move off of Joel Embiid because it's really Maxey and it's VJ Edgecombe's team at this point. Just give those guys the green light and figure out how you build around them.
You swapping him for
Especially
Towns?
who? Embiid?
Embiid for Towns?
I'll keep Towns. So look, I think with Embiid's injury history, it's tough to always rely on, man. Especially like from what we've seen, just from an NBA perspective, as an NBA fan, it's just been inconsistent in and out of the lineup. How can you rely on that?
Yeah, I think both teams would say no there.
Yeah, and look, with Paul George, I mean, is he playing good, man? Because the last time I saw him play, he was like a shell of himself. He had like a few good minutes.
Yeah, Paul George has been a disappointment. I mean, sometimes he looks great. He's still got the handle. He can make us as fans feel like a throwback player. Sometimes you'll see him doing like a Jamal Crawford, shuffle for a long two. And you think, why is he taking those shots in crunch time? There are nights when I say, wow, for a guy who's had all of these, knee issues recently since he became a 76er, his defense is really good. And there's other times where the game's on the line and someone blows right by him and then they lose a game they could have won. So it's been pretty hard to watch. The guy gets a max and now we have to suffer through watching James Harden, the guy who we did not want to max ball out in LA. And people have asked me, do you wish you had Harden back? And I say, like, at this point, you have to say yes to that, because even though some people didn't love the personality he was a very, very unselfish player, and he's been balling. He loves to pass to Tyrese Maxey. He got him out in the open court. Flip side of that would be Maxey has developed and blossomed into a playmaker, and he may not be playing the way he is right now, inching closer, or at least closing the gap between himself and Jalen Brunson that existed last season. So yeah, the Paul George experience is pretty rough. I mean, we were rejoicing. A lot of people crowned them the kings of the offseason when they signed him. If he can get back to 75% of what he was, that would be a huge win at this point. And if Embiid could get towards around the same, the Sixers could be a big problem for a lot of teams, including the Knicks, because while the Knicks are a better team, they're not currently playing better right now. And I forget who wrote it recently. It might have been James Edwards or Zach Harper, but the Knicks, as good as the other defenders are besides Brunson and Towns, as good as Hart, OG, and McHale are, they don't have a guy who's a freak point of attack athletic defender. And so guys like Maxey, guys like Edgecombe can be trouble because they're so lightning quick.
Yeah, and we saw the last couple of matches, man. So it's just figuring out how do you counterbalance that with, or counteract, I should say, with what you have on this roster. And that's just for Mike Brown and the rest of these guys to figure out. And that's why, look, you get a third shot at facing the Sixers. And by this point, you have enough film on what they like to do. And so seeing how Mike Brown and the rest of the team come out and adjust, that's going to be what I'm looking for in this matchup. But last question for the Sixers before we continue to move on to the matchup. What's the expectation for the Sixers then? Because, it's like you stumbled into VJ after having like what was essentially doom and gloom entering the season. Like, where are we going to go, man? It's just Maxey and we don't know anything about Paul George or Embiid right now. Then you get Edgecombe. Guys are very competitive. As of right now, you guys, I think, are 6. You guys are 6 in the standings. Actually, you just moved up after tonight's win. With Embiid's dominant performance. You guys moved up to 5th in the standings. Still a game and a half behind the Knicks, who are 3rd right now in the East. What's the expectation for this team right now?
I think if you talk to the fans that I'm close with, or the ones who are invested, there's enough scar tissue there where they say, we're happy to avoid the play-in and knock a team who's better than us out of the first round. We don't expect to be healthy. We don't expect it to all click because we've been burned before. Philadelphia Eagles looked like they were on their way towards a repeat at one point, and that fizzled. So Philly fans are jaded. You know that. if things started to click, if Joel could string together, maybe not MVP caliber performance, but all-star performance, and Paul George could get to fringe all-star snub levels, then the expectations would begin to really rise. If they could maintain somewhere in that 2 or 3 seed and stay above Boston and maybe eclipse New York, I think over time, if we get closer and closer to spring, then you would start to see people say, hey, this was a team that could not break out of that second round, but why not this year? Because as good as the Pistons look, it's hard to deem a team unbeatable when you just haven't seen it yet. The exceptions are a guy like LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, beats a team that we see knocking on the door year after year. And is Cade Cunningham that guy? Maybe he is, but he hasn't done it yet. He's going to have to show us that he can lead a team to the finals on his back. Not to take anything away from the other guys, but it's the Knicks who looked really good last year. And now obviously Boston loses Tatum, Indiana loses Halliburton, and that puts some of these other teams into the mix. But if things click for the Sixers, they have a lot of firepower there.
For sure, man. If things click, then things could be on the up and up for the Sixers in a quick turnaround time. But let me tell you what else is clicking right now, Dave, and that is our new sponsor, Fabletics. Okay, so there's something about throwing up a fresh workout set that just gets you locked in. The problem is new gear adds up fast. But when I joined Fabletics as a VIP, that's changed. When I signed up, I got 80% off of everything, and I thought it was too good to be true. It's not. The quality surprised me. Premium fit, durable, comfortable, the kind of activewear you'd normally pay way more for. The fit is dialed in too. Joggers that keep you in shape, jackets that keep you warm without feeling bulky, perfect for workouts, travel days, or just getting back into your routine. So when I went to Fabletics, let me tell you something. I got the tees, I got the shorts. I like the shorts with the liners, man. Shorts with the liners just feel comfortable. They're snug, feel protective. The shirts themselves, they're just breathable. For me, a guy who likes to play a lot of pickup basketball, I like something that's light, that goes with my active type of style. And so the shorts, the tees are what I like the most. And I recommend those to you guys. But hey, whatever fits your fancy, make sure you just go to the website and go check it out. Okay, so Fabletics already has incredible deals, and I've got an exclusive offer for just my listeners. All right, get 80% off of everything when you sign up as a VIP. Just head over to fabletics.com/KFTV, take the style quiz, and be sure to select KFTV when prompted. That's fabletics.com/KFTV. All right. Let's keep this thing rolling, Dave. All right. So let's talk about this matchup, man, because look, going into this matchup, since this will be the third time, and speed kills the New York Knicks, this is going to be the most interesting part for me because the Knicks, who are not the fastest paced team out there, they are just they're a team that likes to not necessarily methodically get their shots, but it's like a somewhere in between. That's what Mike Brown is got this team doing. Like they make sure that they get up the court early enough where they have a lot of shot clock left. Not like last year under Tom Thibodeau, where you have Brunson just pounding the living daylights out of the rock, and then like we dwindle it down to 14. We try to get one set going, and then if that doesn't work, either give it to Cat or Brunson to figure it out. Mike Brown really promotes this, get this up-tempo offense going, get past half court, make sure you have at least 20 some odd seconds left in the shot clock, work the ball around. Somebody's got to be diving down the middle, driving, and that way you can kick it out for threes and just spray it all around. So I'm expecting that to happen. However, that's only one way that they play pace. There is also the transition game. Now, the Knicks are in the middle of the pack right now when it comes to being a transition team. They did a great job yesterday against the Brooklyn Nets, but you don't play the Brooklyn Nets 82 times during the regular season. You got to go against other guys. And when I'm looking at the 76ers, this is a team who has Maxey, Edgecombe, and the last 2 times we played, these guys were just dominant in just getting out into the open floor and finishing. And so for me, the biggest thing is, do the Knicks step up and actually get out in transition and slow these guys down? I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. These guys are just, look, speed is something that you can't teach. You can improve your speed, but you can't teach the lightning quickness of what these backcourt guards got for Philly. So can the Knicks do enough in this matchup just to slow them down? Because I feel like if they slow them down in that regards, in that aspect of the game, then they're going to have a really good chance at potentially winning this one.
Yeah, I think the name of the game and something I'm looking at as a key stat is the offensive rebounds for the Knicks. The Knicks, even amid their slump, are one of the top teams in second chance possessions. And if the Sixers can't clean the glass, then they're not going to be able to get out and run like they like to. Over the last 14 games or so, we're looking at the Knicks slump. The Sixers are 12th in defensive rating. And so that's essentially causing misses, giving themselves a chance to get those. And the Knicks, we don't have to necessarily talk about it. They're in the bottom six of defensive rating. So I do think it'll come down to shooting and cleaning the glass because the team that does that's going to be able to get out and run. And if the Sixers are forcing misses and corralling the boards, it's going to be a problem for the Knicks the way they're looking right now. But as we've seen, especially in the playoffs a year and a half ago, when the Knicks are getting all those second chance points, they're really, really tough to beat.
Absolutely. And look, the second chance opportunities is definitely a big component of this one. The Knicks are fifth right now in the league when looking at second chance opportunities. They average about 17 points off for second chance opportunities. And the Sixers are not too far behind. They are 10th in the league with 16. So it's going to be a good matchup. I mean, Drummond's been doing a really good job just cleaning up the boards for Philly. Mitchell Robinson, of course, is who does that dirty work for us. And then with Josh Hart, Karl-Anthony Towns, you sprinkle those guys in. OG has been doing a decent job as well. He's been grabbing boards, and so I feel like that. As to your point, that is going to be another battleground. Like who's going to be able to control the glass, who's going to be able to control the paint, who's going to be able to control the second chance opportunities. Rebounding is just key, man, throughout all aspects of basketball. Just because you got to limit other teams' possessions while giving yourself opportunities if you're missing shots. I do agree with that. That's a big one. Now, I'm curious to see if Mitch plays. I would expect him to play with 2 nights worth of rest. That is the league's best right now, offensive rebounder. What do you think about that? I guess Mitch and Drummond matchup right now, since those are the guys who are going to be leading that leading in that area because of these two stats that we're talking about here.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Drummond played in the last one that the Sixers stole at the Garden. And that might have been a coach's decision. So if that's the case, it might imply that Nurse is worried about the Knicks involving him in pick and roll because his defense there can really collapse the defense as good as his rebounding is. And if Joel's out there a lot, we've seen him, even in nights he's putting up big numbers, he doesn't always like to bang. So if Mitch is out there, it's going to be a guy who Joel might be a little bit reluctant to box out because we've seen him tweak it when he's really wrestling for position. That's all your weight on a flexed leg. And for a guy without cartilage and you got Mitch bearing down on you, even if you're drawing an over the back foul, that could be a pain in the knee. So that matchup will be critical. If Mitch is out there, I'd expect him to do all he can to suit up, especially with the extra rest. The Knicks, there's rumors or word that they're having a players only meeting and they got the extra days off to talk about things. So I think they're going to come out with a lot of intensity. This is a big moment for them and they have to make it work. And when it comes down to hunger, that's where you look at things like second chance points and hustle points and loose balls and Josh Hart type of game where you get dirty and you want it more. And if that goes the Knicks' way, that's going to be trouble for Philly.
Yeah, for sure. And according to Josh Hart, he wanted to clarify that it wasn't players only meeting that they had after the loss to the Dallas Mavericks on Monday on Martin Luther King Day. You just want to say it was like a general players like gathering to have whatever discussion. I mean, however you want to phrase it, man, it's a conversation amongst the players and how they bounce back and how they just how they want to move forward is always going to be the, essentially the like resolution to what they had, whatever that conversation was. But looking at what they got to do, man, look, there's other things that are concerning in this game from a Knicks standpoint, especially when we look at scoring around the rim. Right now, the Knicks just have been allowing guys just to attack willy-nilly from downtown and get into the paint. And when looking at what the Sixers like to do, they certainly like to get out downhill. They're a team that just shoots very well when getting out in transition, as I mentioned. Now, they're not the best team when it comes to finishing around the rim. However, they do like to get downhill pretty frequently just because they're a fast team. They like to take those chances. And with somebody like Maxey and Edgecombe, you're certainly going to continue to attack as much as possible. Now, even though they're dead last when it comes to finishing around the rim, Knicks, conversely, when it comes to like allowing frequency, like who's attacking them, the Knicks are, where are they right now? They are middle of the pack. They are 18th right now when it comes to allowing teams just attacking the rim. However, when it comes to accuracy, and this is all from cleaning the glass, Knicks are in the top six. Although I don't really believe that because to the eye test, uh, they are. Well, wait a minute. No, yeah, no. They're saying that they're not allowing the most finishes around the rim. I don't believe that by these numbers, just because when watching it, it's apparent that these guys are just if you're gonna have Cat and Brutz out there, I mean, there's just not a lot of rim protection. So to that, I think it's being generous based on who they were playing at the beginning of the season. But against Philly, I'm wondering where does that meet in the middle? Because I know they had success doing that, but can the Knicks actually match what we're seeing here statistically and play a better game now that they're fully healthy and they have everybody back? Like Shamit is back. Like he provides a lot of good energy as a wing with Hart back in the rotation too. Even though he missed Monday's game and had to deal with an ankle, I think it was an ankle injury. Very curious to see how all these guys now play since this team is now fully healthy.
Yeah, Nick Nurse is someone who preaches paint touches. He's going to want the ball to touch the paint on pretty much every half court possession in order to pull the defense in and get them moving and get the ball going side to side. Maxey does take some floaters if we're trying to figure out why they might be shooting poorly. I do think that that's the type of stat that might fluctuate a little bit. You might see some randomness as they regress to the mean and hit a little bit more of those shots at the rim. Anecdotally, it was funny. I believe it was against the Knicks where Embiid in garbage time had his first dunk of the season and kind of mock celebrated back in early January. And so he has not been the type of dynamo at the rim as much recently. But since that game, he does seem to be finding his footing and attacking a little bit more, throwing down a few that have gone viral. So I do think the Sixers would love to get downhill, like you said. And of course, in transition, they want to get those dunks and threes. But half court, if they could get that and put the Knicks on their heels a little bit, maybe get a guy like Towns or Robinson in foul trouble, that would be a huge advantage from Nick Nurse's perspective.
We'll see, man. We'll see. But good points by you. Good points by you by what the Sixers are going to try to do. Hit that thumbs up button for your boy. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Shout out to everybody in the chat right now. We got our franchise caller Ari in the building. Shout out to you. Oh, we got the rhyme animal Chuck D in the building as well. Throw a hashtag PE in the chat. Who else we got in here, man? Appreciate everybody for coming through. We got Smooth Guitar. Shout out to you for being a franchise channel member. We got my guy Do Things in here. Shout out to you, Do Things. We got Nuggy Fresh. Shout out to you, Nuggy Fresh. Appreciate all you guys. Shout out to Black Westchester as well. We got Ray Nobleza in here. Shout out to you. Who else we got in here? We got Mellow Mike in here too. Shout out to all of our franchise channel members. Appreciate all of you for coming through. All right. So you know who the key matchup is, Dave. You know who the key matchup is of this matchup. It's none other than Jalen Brunson versus Tyrese Maxey. And now Tyrese Maxey has gotten the best in this matchup. And we've seen, I'm sure you are well aware of the entire discussion going online, whereas who's the best guard in the East? Is it Cade? Is it Tyrese Maxey? Is it Brunson? Okay. And while I think it's a very cute conversation, none of the guys have actually, had the playoff success of what Brunson's had so far. So very fun to have this dialogue, I guess. But the proof is in the pudding, as they say, where go the distance in the playoffs first before you start doing it. Now, none of these guys have won a championship. I get that. But if we're going to talk about, we're looking at what they've done on paper. Brunson's done more on paper. Nevertheless, Maxey's gotten the best of Brunson so far during the regular season. What do you think about this matchup? Because, they're both two different styles. One's more physical, methodical in how he gets into the paint, how he can knock down threes. That's being Jalen Brunson, utilizing that crafty footwork. Then you got Tyrese Maxey, who's just the flash, man. A true absolute blur. Knows how to use his strength at this point, likes to get downhill, knows how to cross over guys, and just gets to his spots easily and just makes defenses pay. What do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, Maxi, he abides by the 1% better every day, and he has really improved his throughout his whole career. It's a marvel to watch him just continue to add to his bag. The step back, the going left, the floaters, finishing with both hands on both sides of the rim. And the playmaking has really taken him to a next level. I think it was Trillbro, dude, correct me if I'm wrong, who was on Twitter pointing out that he has more stocks, the combo of blocks and steals than anyone but Victor. So he has even improved his defense this year. He plays really hard on that end. There's a lot of times I'm watching where I'm thinking like between him and VJ, there's always a hand up, there's a steal, there's a deflection. VJ's leading the league on a stat I hadn't heard too much of, but loose balls corralled essentially. So the Sixers guards hustle. And I do think that the advancements, the improvements that Maxi's made offensively are easier to see, but the defensive improvements that he has really allowed him to close that gap. When it comes to what Mike Woodson would say, nut cutting time, when I go to Carmelo Anthony, to give you a throwback, when it comes to nut cutting time, I would go with Brunson. We've seen it. He is so level-headed. He almost has that mini Jokic vibe where it's like he's just not going to make a mistake. He's going to get to his spot. He's going to put up a little shot, a floater, and it's going to doink around the rim and go in. Or he's going to make the right play and get to the line. But Max is coming for him, and you and I both know there is a world where this time come May where we have to bow down to Cade and say, all right, he's the guy. We haven't seen that before, and that's why he came out of the East. So neither of us are hoping for that, but I can't completely dismiss the idea that he will take that leap. Sometimes top picks just do that and surprise us. But right now I'm leaning Brunson, but it's been really fun to watch Maxey continue to close this gap.
Yeah, as an NBA fan, man, it's just look, I like that the East is competitive, man. I mean, for so long, we've had to watch the East. It's LeBron was spreading tyranny amongst the East, right? And we had to watch the Raptors always choke against LeBron James. And then now it's just been Boston who has been dominant. And just like it's a question between can Boston actually do it? And then you get those years where Miami decided to come through and be like, not today, right? And Jimmy Butler decided to be like, all right, we're going to stop this right now. Or you had Giannis who won, and like it goes back and forth, right? But it feels like the East is now at a point where there's so much good talent. I mean, the fact that the Sixers are where they are right now, seeing Detroit take this leap that they're doing right now, there's just a lot of good basketball teams in the Eastern Conference. And look, teams still have a chance. Like I know the Cavs, although I don't really believe in them, but look, they're still a talented team. They got a lot of talent there, and they're six for as underwhelming they've been. And you still have Donovan Mitchell. You got Garland on the team, Allen, Evan Mobley. Toronto has taken a step forward with RJ, Scotty, all those guys there too. Like there's just a lot of good teams. Miami, I feel like has been punching above its weight. Orlando is still trying to figure things out, but it's had a strong start earlier this season too. And even with Atlanta, who's struggling right now after the Trae Young trade, they're still intriguing. And Milwaukee, if they do get their ish together, they could be a team that creates even more chaos in the East. And so the East is just very deep right now. I'm enjoying to see the competition, but I feel like when you talk about the guards, it's definitely Brunson right now for what he's done on paper. But Cade and Maxey are rising through the ranks right now, and there's just a lot of good talent in the East, man. And it makes it a lot of fun. But I'm looking forward to that matchup, man. Always like seeing two top guards compete, especially with the different play styles, man. I think that's always fun. Who are some other matchups that you're looking for, or I should say that you're watching out in this game?
Well, I quoted my buddy who was worried about Nick Claxton before, so I'm going to quote him again. He said, I am absolutely positive that Kelly Oubre is going to shut down Cat in this one. So he's a doom and gloom pessimist. But as a Knicks fan, you understand his pain because you've seen these nightmare scenarios play out over and over. The Sixers did a good job against Towns in the last matchup. He didn't shoot a good percentage. His efficiency has been down in general. Make of that what you will. I'm sure you guys have talked about it ad nauseum. We don't have to beat a dead horse. I think he will regress to the mean a little bit in terms of his own. I mean, he's been a game away from the NBA Finals the last 2 seasons, so we can't knock him that much, even though Draymond might take a shot. Now we have lip readers decoding OG Anunoby trying to put out the fires. Like, he's soft. Okay, I respect it, but I think it's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing VJ again. I got to be honest. I mean, the lights were really bright in the Garden and VJ and Maxey. And Maxey we already knew because we saw when the Garden was rocking back in 2024, he played one of the best games of his career. So he's a guy who has that ice water DNA. We got a sense of it at Kentucky. That's why a lot of these teams love, as Leon Rose pays close attention to someone who's performed under the brightest lights, as opposed to a Ben Simmons, a Markelle Fultz, one of these top picks who goes to a smaller school, and it's hard to know what's in this player's composition, what's in his blood. Maxey and VJ both seem to have that, and so I want to see how they do when we're looking at another primetime game for a team who I expect to come out with some desperation and prove that whatever has been happening is going to be in the rear view at some point in the near future.
Okay. Definitely, I can understand why you want to look at VJ. I mean, if I'm looking at anything, it's probably, let's see, you got Maxey and you got VJ. I mean, I'm looking at like probably Hart on VJ, Bridges on Maxey. Probably try to use the wingspan to slow down Maxey, just because I don't think Hart has, Hart's coming back off an ankle injury. I don't think you want to necessarily try that with speed. And I think you want more physicality, which VJ likes to play with. He likes to be more of a physical type player. And then you probably try to hide Brunson on Dominic Barlow. You're going to have Cat on Embiid. We
saw
keep
a
going.
report he might be coming off the bench, Barlow.
As of right now, he looks like he's going to be in that starting rotation based on what I see here. Who would be playing the 4? Kelly?
I think you do Kelly and PG. I mean, that's what they did at times in the past. It'll be interesting. I think it was B-Ball Breakdown talked about the Sixers spamming the same play in the last matchup. They ran the 1-5 pick and roll or the 1-5 DHO between Maxey and Embiid, and the ball wound up winding in Paul George's hands in the corner, and the Knicks were living with that until he kept draining them. Then it opened up the backdoor cuts. So I do think it'll be a big deal that Mike Brown will likely spend a lot of time on planning on how to slow down that Maxey and Embiid handoff. Even though Embiid is not the force that he's been in the past, that's where they're setting things up, and that's certainly where they set things up against the Knicks in the last win.
Have to focus on VJ and Maxey, man. Those guys set the tone for how the Sixers are playing right now. But if it is even Kelly, I still think you do once again put Brunson on Oubre, because I think they're good. I think they would put OG on Paul George. I think just out of respect. But I think that's how you would have to do it, man. I think that's how you would have to do it in this one. I'm very curious to see how OG comes up in this one, man. Definitely need his 3-point shooting to come through. We know what he can do defensively, even though it's been a little shaky over the last couple of weeks. But I think OG is the guy I'm looking out for, man, because he's going to be the one that is probably going to be trotted out there and just switching every single time. Like, I expect, even though I'm saying Bridges will probably get the first shot at guarding Maxey, I could see it being switched to OG. They tried that in the past. I don't really see that working. I could see them putting like Hart on Maxey, and then you put OG on VJ Edgecombe to try to like muscle him up. Like, you know what I mean? I could just see so many different things. I think OG is going to be the focal point of like, hey, let's switch this now. Hey, switch this now, because it's going to be based on who was feeling it in that moment and just slowing them down and who's ever on the court at that time. So
yeah, hard on Maxey would be where I would probably lean if I were Mike Brown. Because
OG on Maxey? I mean,
no,
that was even tough.
Hart.
Oh, Hart.
And then, because like you said, if you put OG on PG and out of respect, he gets to play a little free safety because he knows he's going to be switching. You get a little rim protection out of OG.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what you want, and that's what he's been solid at this year, man, is just providing that rim protection. Very curious to see how this all gets deployed tomorrow. Very curious to see how this all gets deployed tomorrow. It'll help
It's going
with
to be different from the last one. We know that.
it'll definitely be different, man. It will definitely be different. People, let me tell you something that's different right now, okay? And that is Rula. Rula is different, and they're breaking the therapy game. And let me tell you how. Let's be real, okay? Real life gets difficult at times, man. Work, family, finances, the constant grind. We talk a lot about basketball stress, but real life stress, that's a different level. And I'll be honest, therapy has helped a lot of people close to me get back on track. Friends, teammates, family. Sometimes you just need someone who can help you sort things out. The only problem, it's hard to find a therapist. It takes forever and the cost can be crazy. That's why I really like what Rula is doing. Rula makes therapy simple and accessible. They work with the most major insurance plans and sessions can cost as little as $15, literally the price of a quick lunch in the city. They've got over 15,000 licensed therapists, fully vetted, and they match you with someone based on your needs. No guessing, no long wait list. You get an appointment as soon as the next day. If you've been thinking about therapy or even just curious, Rule removes the excuses. Go to rula.com/KFTV and get started today. That's RULA.com/KFTV. Take the first step. Take care of yourself. All right, Dave, let's roll this thing out and let's get to the X factors, man. Who's your X factor for tomorrow for the 76ers? Who do you expect to really be the guy to change the game?
It's funny to say him because he's been an all NBA player so many times, but I'm going to say Paul George. I mean, if you get a good game out of Paul George, I like the Sixers' chances, particularly if the Knicks show up for real, and we get a good version of the Knicks, the team that you and I know they can be, or at least one who's not the team getting booed off the court against Dallas. So if this is a grinded out type of game where half court possessions matter, Paul George is my X factor on the Sixers end. He's going to have to play well in that half court set offensively and defensively.
Okay, you're going with Paul George. I'm going to go with Josh Hart, man. Guy just returning from injury. You know, he is the heart and soul of this team, pun intended. But look, the when he was out and during that losing streak, we saw that we were missing somebody who was a connector, somebody who just brought that aggression, that vigor that's needed for this team. He is a tone setter. And I'm looking at him to be the X factor in this matchup against the 76ers. And I think the biggest thing outside of just defense, especially when it comes to slowing down those guards, is being that connector, as I mentioned, and just being a 3-point shooter as well. He was shooting the three ball very well before the new calendar year and before getting injured. And I'm looking for him to be that confident again. You know, there's when since he's returned, he's pump faked and allowed the defense he's been playing to the defense's hand and just wanting him to drive and just shorten the court for everybody else. I want him to be confident and just knock down the three because he was shooting at a very high clip. He was shooting over like 37% prior to the injury, and he needs to get back to that in order to help the Knicks. So Josh Hart just as a
We all
connector
still
and a
have
3-point shooter is what's needed.
we all have collective nightmares about Josh Hart from the playoffs when he turned into Ray Allen for like 5 days. So that's the most painful pick. We, being a Villanova guy, we accepted how good Brunson is. It hurts even more to see Josh Hart drain 6 threes in a game contested. So yeah, when Hart plays like you're describing as an X factor, that's especially painful of being a guy that a lot of people consider a Philly guy.
Yeah, man. And look, he also does the thing that the Knicks don't do a lot of, which is getting out in transition. He's the guy who will grab a board, solid rebounder, right? One of the best rebounding guards out there. And he's more than willing to push the pace by himself. I like to call him the one-man band man because this is a guy who can grab the board, get out in transition, and finish. So he does two things for you at once. Josh Hart's going to be my X factor, man. Josh Hart's
Ultimate
definitely my
green
X
light in
factor.
transition. Ultimate green
Absolutely,
light.
man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, hey, tomorrow should be an interesting one, Dave. Tomorrow should be an interesting one. Appreciate you for coming through as always, my man. Please let the listeners know where they can find you. If you got any work up and coming, we should be on the lookout for.
At David Early on Twitter, like early morning. And I'm going to be looking to do some more podcasts. So you could follow my YouTube channel at Dave Early Clips. And I'll be watching the games just like you.
All right, there you go. So make sure you give Dave a follow. My man just moved down to Florida. Said he wanted better weather. There you go, man. Salute to you, man. And make sure to go give Dave a follow, man. He does a great job covering the Sixers, so make sure to go check out his work. And appreciate all of you for coming through here and checking this Game of the Week preview out. Make sure that thumbs up button for your boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Appreciate all the franchise channel members for coming through. We got a good one between the Knicks and the Sixers on Saturday, so make sure to stay tuned in for that. And you already know what's going to happen, man. We're going to have play-by-play, and we're going to have post-game as always, so make sure to stay locked into the channel for that day as well. And also, make sure to support our sponsors, all right? Make sure to support Fabletics, okay? As I mentioned, if you become a VIP member, you get 80% off of everything. Just take the quiz, so that way you know how to get, laced up with all the incredible gear that they got. As I mentioned, I like the line shorts. I like the shirt. It just feels great. It's light. It's breathable, especially when I play basketball. I like wearing that type of stuff. And then if you want to go support, make sure to go to fabletics.com/KFTV and make sure that you select KFTV when prompted to let them know that we sent you over there, okay? And you get 80% off becoming a VIP member. Lastly, make sure to go support Rula, okay? Go to rula.com, that's RULA.com/KFTV if you need help mentally, okay? There's a lot of great therapists over there, so make sure to go support Rula as well if you need to go get yourself correct, okay? Also, make sure to go check out the newsletter. Got a lot of great writers over there. Make sure to go check out our website. We got a lot of great merch over there as well. Appreciate everyone for tapping in as always. We'll catch you later this week for when the Knicks face the Sixers. All right, everyone, we out.